Christine Granville has no weapon, no backup, no official authority. She has only her wits and an impossible plan. Walk into a Gestapo-controlled prison and demand the release of 3 condemned Allied spies. Inside, 3 British Special Operations executive agents sit in cells scheduled for execution in hours. They've endured interrogation, torture. The Gestapo commander has signed their death warrants. Every instinct screams this plan is suicide. Walking into Gestapo headquarters, demanding anything from men who've built careers on terror? The odds of success are nearly 0. But Christine Granville doesn't deal in odds. She deals in audacity. She's already escaped the Nazi invasion of Poland, skied across mountains to gather intelligence, and survived countless close calls. She's Britain's longest-serving female agent for a reason. Now she's about to attempt her most dangerous mission yet. With no weapon but her nerve, she's walking straight into the lion's den. Born Krystyna Skarbek, Christine Granville came from Polish aristocracy. She spoke multiple languages. She could have fled to safety and waited out the war in comfort. Instead, she chose to fight. She made her way to Britain and volunteered for the Special Operations Executive, Churchill's secret army. While most women were assigned to radio work, Christine demanded field operations. The SOE had never seen anyone quite like her. She skied across frozen mountains to gather intelligence. She smuggled microfilm past Nazi checkpoints. She organized resistance networks in Hungary and France. Mission after mission, she proved herself fearless. But in August 1944, everything went wrong. 3 of her SOE colleagues had been captured in southern France. Francis Kammertz, circuit organizer, Zan Fielding, intelligence officer, and Christian Sorensen, radio operator. The Gestapo had them. The interrogations had been brutal. Gestapo commander Albert Schenk had already ordered their execution. They were scheduled to die within hours. When word reached Christine, she faced a choice. The rational decision was to escape. The Germans still controlled this region. Walking into their hands would be suicide. Christine made a different choice. She would go get them. Every tactical manual says the same thing. You don't walk into enemy headquarters unarmed. You don't negotiate from weakness. You don't bluff when your opponents hold all the cards. Christine's plan violated every rule. She would simply walk into the Gestapo prison, identify herself as a British agent, and demand the release of the 3 condemned men. No weapons, no reinforcements, no leverage except her personality and whatever story she could sell. It was, by any measure, insane. The only factor in her favor was timing. Allied forces were advancing, but they hadn't reached this area yet. The Gestapo knew their time was running out. When Allied forces arrived, anyone involved in executing Allied agents would face war crimes trials. Christine's plan was to make Albert Schenk believe the Allies were closer than they actually were. She had no authority to negotiate. She couldn't promise immunity. She was one woman against an entire Gestapo apparatus. If Schenk called her bluff, she'd join the prisoners facing the firing squad. But Christine had one critical advantage. She understood how fear works. Schenk might control that prison, but he couldn't control what happened when Allied forces arrived. Christine was betting his fear of the future would outweigh his confidence in the present. It was a stupid plan. It was also the only plan that had any chance of working. August 1944. While most would see an impossible mission, Christine saw a problem that could be solved with the right information. Before walking into that prison, she needed intelligence. First, who exactly was Albert Schenk? Through resistance contacts, Christine learned everything about the prison commander. His background, his temperament, his fears. Schenk wasn't a fanatical Nazi. He was a career officer who'd survived by following orders and avoiding unnecessary risks. That psychological profile became her weapon. Second, the tactical situation. Christine gathered intelligence on Allied positions. They were advancing, but not as quickly as she needed Schenk to believe. She would have to exaggerate their proximity, plausibly. Third, Official backing. Christine connected with Lieutenant Colonel Francis Brooks, coordinating with French resistance. While he couldn't authorize her mission officially, he could provide information to make her story convincing. Finally, leverage beyond words. Christine gathered 2 million francs from resistance funds and SOE resources. Money talks, especially to men who see their power evaporating. By August 16th, she had everything. Intelligence on Schenk, plausible claims about Allied advances, money for bribes, and most importantly, a clear psychological strategy. She would walk in not as a desperate supplicant, but as the voice of inevitable Allied victory, delivering Schenk one last chance to save himself. Now came the hard part, selling it. August 16th, 1944. Late afternoon. Christine Granville presents herself at the prison entrance and demands to speak with Commander Albert Schenk. The guards are stunned. Who is this woman, walking in voluntarily, speaking with such authority? Within minutes, she's standing in Schenk's office. She doesn't plead. She doesn't negotiate like a supplicant. Instead, she delivers a message. Allied forces are hours away. When they arrive, they will learn that Schenk executed 3 British agents on the eve of liberation. There will be war crimes trials. There will be consequences. Schenk tries to maintain control. Who is this woman? What authority does she have? Christine identifies herself as a British agent, claiming connections to Allied command. She offers him one chance. Release the prisoners now, and the British will remember his cooperation when the trials begin. Schenk wavers. Christine's confidence is unnerving. She speaks as if Allied victory is already certain. Then Christine produces the 2 million francs. She calls it compensation for administrative cooperation. The money makes the choice easier. For hours, the negotiation continues. Schenk consults subordinates. He makes calls. Christine maintains absolute certainty that the Allies are coming and his time is running out. Finally, as the sun sets, Schenk makes his decision. The prisoners will be released. Francis Kammertz, Zan Fielding, Christian Sorensen. Hours earlier, they were preparing for execution. Now guards are removing their restraints and leading them to the prison entrance. They can't believe what they're seeing. When they emerge and see Christine Granville standing there, calmly smoking a cigarette, the impossibility hits them. She walked into Gestapo headquarters, unarmed, alone, and convinced Schenk to release 3 condemned Allied spies. The execution scheduled for that evening never happens. Christine doesn't celebrate. She hustles all 3 men away before Schenk can change his mind. They move through the streets, putting distance between themselves and the Gestapo. Within hours, they've reached resistance safe houses. Within days, as Allied forces actually do advance, they're safely behind Allied lines. The mission that should have ended with 4 dead agents instead ends with 4 survivors. The most remarkable part wasn't Schenk's decision. It was that Christine Granville had created a situation where that decision became possible. She'd walked into the most dangerous place imaginable and turned fear and uncertainty into leverage. 3 men who should have died lived instead, all because one woman refused to accept impossible as an answer. Christine Granville became Britain's most decorated female agent of World War II. She received the George Medal, the OBE, and France's Croix de Guerre. Her record was unmatched, the SOE's longest-serving female agent operating in Poland, Hungary, and France throughout the war. The prison rescue was just one of countless missions where she'd risked everything. But when the war ended, Britain had little use for foreign-born agents. Christine struggled to find work. She took jobs as a saleswoman, a telephone operator, work far beneath her capabilities. On June 15, 1952, Christine was working as a stewardess. At the Shelbourne Hotel, a former acquaintance, Dennis Muldowney, confronted her. When she rejected his advances, his obsession turned violent. He stabbed her to death in the hotel lobby. The woman who'd survived countless Nazi encounters, who'd walked into Gestapo headquarters and walked out alive, was murdered by a rejected suitor in peacetime London. She was 44 years old. Muldowney was convicted and hanged, but no punishment could restore what was lost. Christine Granville's legacy lives in the agents she saved, the intelligence she gathered, the operations she enabled. She proved that audacity and intelligence could overcome superior force. That one person, armed only with courage and quick thinking, could achieve the impossible. The countess who refused to run had run out of battles to fight, but the story of what she accomplished will never be forgotten.